start using Recordsearch, search Recordsearch and click on the first link that pops up. Then click Recordsearch on Explore the Collection. Once here, you can now put in the information of your soldier, in my case, John McKean. You shouldn't have to put in any dates, but if lots of results pop up, you may have to. Upon searching, you can then click Control F and find the number of the soldier you are searching for. In my case, 3347. Two results pop up, one at the top and one here. We always want to do the result that has this image, View Digital Copy. However, if you find another record, please notify any staff of the memorial, as this is something we will want to uncover ourselves. So go ahead and click on the View Digital Copy. At this point, open up your soldier information sheet, which you can find on the website or on the Discord, or was most likely sent to you in email, and you can now start filling out the information. To figure out their name, it is whatever is written at question run, which we can see here is John McKean. Include all middle names. Next, to figure out regimental number, it is in the top left, and we can see he had 2, or possibly even 3, but it is the one that is not grayed out, which is, in his case, 3347. To figure out subunit, the easiest way is hopefully on the top of the screen there'll be something like this. A number, then /44. Whatever the number beforehand, you will then put 8th reinforcements. If it had been a 1, you'd put first reinforcements, and if there's no number there at all, you would put original battalion. Next is to figure out the enlistment date, which is whatever is said here, which in his case is the 21st of December 1915. Age at enlistment is found at question 4. What is your age? You put in their years and their months. Birthplace is found at question 2. It can also be found on the right hand side at POB Liverpool, England. To figure out the ethnicity, this one is somewhat more difficult. If the answer to question 3 is yes, then they are a British Australian. However, if the answer is no, or if the answer has anything other than yes, such as yes in brackets previously Russian, you would put in whatever their old ethnicity was. Religion can't be figured out on this page, and we'll come back to it later. Australian town is whatever place they were living at the time that they were enlisted. This can sometimes be found on this page, but oftentimes it cannot. If their next of kin is their wife, then you can always assume that their wife's location is where they also live. However, if their next of kin is someone else, you may have to dig deeper. Height also can't be found on this page. Occupation at enlistment can be found at question 5. In his case, it was labourer. If he is married, you could find this at question 7. In his case, no. Next of kin is always listed at question 8. In this case, it's quite confusing because it all got cut out. This is because he married midway during the war. However, I would just put either one of these. So for his case, I would put John McKean in brackets father, and then I'd try to figure out his address, which looks to be 1016 Hay Street, West Perth, WA. Previous service can be found at question 11. In his case, no. If there is a yes, you just copy whatever is written there. To find out the answers for most of the rest of the questions, you then have to go to usually page 3 or 4 in this case. In the top left, you will see some more details. As such, you can see his height, which is 5'3", and you can also see his religion here as Roman Catholic. If you're unsure about the religion, just ask for help. Now we move on to using the record. A soldier's record can vary in size greatly, from maybe only 15 pages to possibly 100 pages. John McKean's is quite small at just 20 pages. I recommend before writing down anything, you just simply go through the pages. Really, most pages are just double ups, and you most likely won't have to copy all information. Once you scroll through, you can find the best place to start, which is usually towards the end. In this case, not so much, but oftentimes towards the end it is all typewritten, so it is not just chicken scratch like here. For me, I'm going to go all the way back to the front. Once coming back to the front, it is now about documenting his story. As we can see here, we have 3 different types of service. First, I'll start with total service. Total service starts from the day that he enlisted to the day that he discharged. His enlistment date was on the 21st of December 1915. And his last date is whatever is last said on the spreadsheet, which in this case is returned to Australia on the 9th of August 1919. 1919, sorry. That's the easiest one. Next is overseas service, which starts when they left Australia and stops once they returned to Australia. The best way to find when they departed overseas, it will usually be typed and will say embarked. The first time it says embarked is when they first left Australia. So we can see here, 29th of June, 1917. The last date is whenever he returned to Australia. In this case, it's the exact same last date, returned to Australia on the 9th of August 1919. Frontline service is the hardest thing that you will do in this entire record. It is an exact day by day of when they served at the front line. Each record will be different, and it will be up to you to try and use critical thinking skills. Usually, the easiest way to figure out is whenever the number 44th is first mentioned. So this says TOS, which I can only assume is 2 lines of 44th Battalion from 8th Reinforcements. If you see something that says 244th from, that is a really good sign. So I would start the date as 4th of January 1918 is when his frontline service started. Now, there are multiple things that can take someone out of frontline service. If they were killed, if they were wounded and sent to hospital, any single time they are in hospital does not count. So as we go further in, we can find that he was ADM. ADM is short for admitted. If you ever see ADM, you disregard the dates that are here. So he was admitted on the 25th of July 1918. Oh, 1917 up here. So he wasn't even at frontline service. But the next time he was sick was on the 11th of July 1918. So his frontline service ended on that date. It then says rejoined battalion, so his service started again on the 4th of September 1918. Frontline service for everyone ended on the 11th of November 1918 with the end of the war. Some people might have it very simple. Other people might have to put this in like 10 times, depending on how many times a soldier was wounded. Here we can see Private Abbey, who was constantly sick, and as such his frontline service didn't happen just once, twice, 3 times, but 4 different times. This is how difficult it might be. Perfect, so you've figured out the frontline service. The last thing you need to do with this document is casualty. You need to write down how many times they were a casualty. Now, he was definitely a casualty, so we put yes. I know for a fact that he was administered sick here, and he was also put sick here. So we would put yes, sick. You then put the dates that they were sick. So he was sick for 1 month with venereal disease, which is what I assume VD to be, but if you don't know, you just put VD. And then you put what time period. So July 1917. He was then sick again, unknown why, but for 2 months. In July 1918. I personally know why, as this was my family member. he was actually gassed at the front line, but that was counted as being sick rather than wounded. Another important thing is to figure out what rank they were. Now, for most soldiers, this will already be written, and it will always be written on the left-hand side. PTE, 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 which is short for private. If it's anything different than PTE, he had a different role or he was a senior commander. Next is the Battle Honours. To figure this out, you can use the Battle Honours Guide, which can be found on the website, on the Discord, and also will be emailed to you. It's as simple as figuring out what dates they were at the front line and which dates correspond with this. Every single soldier that served at least one day at the front line is eligible for this first battle honour, which comes at the very end. Then you figure out what dates he was present for which battles. I know that he wasn't present until 4th of January 1918, so these first few battles he was not present for. However, he was present for these two, Somme and Ankara. I've now figured out all the battle honours. All I have to do now is count them up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And you put the number at the front, and that's it. That's the battle honours. Figure out the honours and awards is quite similar. I've got a guide that can be found on the website or on the Discord, and it shows what awards they were eligible for. Did he serve overseas, 1914 and 1915? No. But he did serve at least 28 days, so therefore I'd put these three down. He was not wounded, and he did not die. These ones are important. He did spend a year overseas. In fact, he spent 2, and both times he had good conduct. The way they are eligible for the good conduct stripe is if there is no mention of them having any bad behaviour in their spreadsheet. If there is, they are not eligible for the good conduct stripe. He didn't receive any extra awards, which can be found down here. This is the order of precedence. If he received the Distinguished Service Order, which is the highest award anyone in the battalion ever received, you'd put that at the very front before putting something less like the long service stripe. Make sure you stick to this order. Now that we have done all we can militarily, it's time to figure out anything else we can about their life. To do that, we come to Trove, which is a collection of all websites made in Australia from the 1700s until the mid-1950s. To use Trove, we will first search the name of the person we want, which for me, this time will be Albert Abbey. We want to click on See All Newspapers and Gazettes, and we want to properly set ourselves up. On the right-hand side, select Place, Western Australia, and then you can select the date range if you want to. Since there's only 50 records, that shouldn't really matter, but if you are having 1,000 records, you'd want to shorten it to times that you knew he was definitely alive for. So 1840, he probably wasn't alive at that point. You then search by earliest first and start going to a realistic time frame. We can then see there are lots of results for an Albert Abbey, and we can find stories. For example, an unlucky young man. A short time ago, he received a nasty blow in the face from the branch of a tree, necessitating his having to visit the doctor and have his nose plastered up. Once you collect enough of these stories, a soldier's story might come out like this, where you have various information on him. He was an active member of the VAS community, did a dance trip to Eucla. Basically, anything you come across, it's worth mentioning. Now, keep in mind, if someone has a very common name, such as John Smith, it's going to come up with a billion results. 300,000 results. That's insane. And they will take forever to go through. And you can't trust that this John Smith is the John Smith that you're researching. It could be another random John Smith. So if you find that you're getting more than a couple hundred records, don't believe that that soldier is yours, and it's probably not worth the time actively going through this. Once you have found a record, make sure to document it at the top by sourcing it. So you can find what newspaper it was from, what date it was, and what page it was up here in the top left. Make sure to source that. Finally, there are some other places that you can find additional information. First is the Australian War Memorial. If you put in the name of the soldier, you will eventually be able to find them. However, not much information is usually on the Australian War Memorial. Another good one is Collections WA. The vast majority of soldiers will not have anything, but there is the occasional soldier who will have a good photograph. State Library of WA tends to have quite a bit as well. Again, most soldiers won't have anything, but occasionally a soldier will come up with some good information. The AIF is a good one as well. You should be able to always find information of the soldier, and it can oftentimes clear up a lot of the issues with the record if you're having any. Next, Find a Grave is also a good one. It will not only tell you where they died, but oftentimes has a lot of information about their life. Finally, if you just search the name of the soldier and the years of their life in the search bar, you should be able to find various places such as Ancestry or MyHeritage. On Ancestry, you can find important details such as their parents and their spouse, as well as their children, or any siblings that they had. And the final thing is actually writing the record. Now you can write it in anywhere, whether it's a Word document, notepad, but there are some common themes that need to be kept. First, you start with their name, starting with their rank, then their full name, and then any special awards they might have had. It will be clear if they have a special award. You then do the dates of their life, and then you do their job and their soldierly description, whether it be officer or soldier, whether he be an inventor, a farmer, or a labourer. Then comma, wherever he was born, son of who, and how many siblings. From then on, the story's up to you. You should try and keep information brief and not use too many ands. As you can see, his entire life story is summed up pretty quickly, but all of this information is quite critical. Make sure not to just make the story information after information after information, but make it so it has an actual flow and seems interesting. At the bottom, you should put the sourcing of wherever you found various information. Once you are finished with your record, you can either upload it onto the Discord, return it via the website, or send it back via email, and we will actually create it onto the website.